Peptides, kind of a hot buzzword these days, but what are peptides? Why are we talking about them on social media so often? And can they be helpful for a person to optimize their health? Well, first of all, a peptide is just a type of organic chemical structure. It's a string of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and they are held together by peptide bonds. And so these little strings of amino acids are called peptides. So they're like tiny little proteins, if you will. And we have many of these naturally occurring in our bodies that are now being produced as FDA-approved medications. Two you might know about are the GLP-1 receptor agonist medicines. So these are things like Ozempic and Wegovy, which are semaglutide, and Zepbound and Mounjaro, which are tirzepatide. But of course, we have a natural glucagon-like peptide hormone in our body that is made in the gut and slows gastric emptying and tells the hypothalamus to curb our appetite. We also have glucose insulinotropic polypeptide, or GIP. That's the second, the receptor of that is the second one that tirzepatide interacts with, in addition to the GLP-1. And of course, the first peptide that was ever isolated and synthesized for use as a medication was insulin. Very, very important peptide that has saved millions of lives, particularly people who are type 1 diabetics, for whom their diagnosis in the time before insulin was identified and first noted to be in the pancreas of dogs and pigs and used that way, derived from that, and then later synthesized in the laboratory. Someone with the autoimmune type 1 diabetes would not have survived long term. It would have progressed and the patient would pass away. And of course, we have so many type 2 diabetics who are poorly controlled or not controlled and need insulin to get them under control. So peptides are really just a broad class of an organic chemical. And some are FDA approved, like those I mentioned, for diabetes and weight loss. But also there are many out there in the general lay kind of space, and also not FDA approved, but being procured by patients, although they're labeled for only research purposes, because they have not been tested by the FDA. And in many cases, there is no data with regard to human safety and efficacy. Plus, these are not being synthesized in pharmaceutical laboratories that are regulated by the FDA, so that we know that there are strict quality controls, both for the amount of the active ingredient, the minimization of impurities, and also sterility of the solution. So obtaining things like BPC 157 and all these other really popular peptides right now is buyer beware is one way to put it, but you're really playing with injecting something into your body that you really don't know the nature of. You don't know what's in that syringe. So it's very difficult for me as an internal medicine board certified physician to recommend or certainly not prescribe, because they aren't really medications. They're research grade chemicals. At least that's how they're being labeled. Everybody knows, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that these are being used by humans. Just because BPC 157 improved Achilles tendon healing in rats does not mean that it's safe in humans, and does not mean that it would be effective in humans. Now, I can't prevent the world from doing what it's doing right now, but I think the FDA is going to be coming down on this practice because it really is unsafe. And they've already done this with a recent case against a physician who was prescribing what are research grade chemicals to be used as medications, drugs in human patients. There are people who have the theory that the reason that no human research is being done on these peptides is because they cannot be patented, and therefore Big Pharma is not going to put money into research. Now, there's probably some truth to that. However, there are many compounds that cannot be patented, for which there have been large numbers of human studies and trials. Creatine, which is used by people to improve muscle mass, among other things, maybe even cognition. There are dozens of studies, really reputable randomized controlled trials with creatine, although no pharma company can patent it. It's just a generic medication at this point, or supplement, I should say. It's not a medication, it's a supplement. But regardless, my point is that there is research on a lot of compounds that could be used as medications, or they might be considered supplements, but they're not patentable. They're public domain kind of things, and pharma isn't going to put tens to hundreds of millions of dollars into randomized controlled trials to test them. However, academic medical research institutions and others have done many, many randomized controlled trials with them, creatine just being one example. So really take it with a grain of salt, if you will, in terms of a lot of these peptides that are all the rage. Peptides are a huge, broad class of compounds for which there are FDA-approved peptides to be used as medications, where their safety and efficacy and long-term safety have already been evaluated very, very stringently. And then you have all these Wild West peptides that are being made in other places in the world with an unknown degree of supervision and quality control, sterility, etc., and labeled as research grade, although we know lots of people are injecting them into themselves. Rat studies don't always equate with human studies, so my advice is to be very careful and honestly to avoid things that haven't been properly tested. It doesn't have to be an FDA-approved medication, but there has to be at least good, sound human clinical trial data to support safety, number one, efficacy, number two, and the last part of this equation is who is actually preparing it. If it's being made in another country with really no verification of who and how it's made, that's concerning to me. And even by a compounding pharmacy in the United States, where are they getting the ingredient itself? Is that still coming from some kind of laboratory or manufacturing facility in another country where things may not be regulated very well? So be very, very careful. Do your due diligence. Speak to your physician. I always recommend that, although maybe I'm biased about it. And buyer beware in the realm of peptides, but remember that there are plenty of them for which there is a lot of data to support their use, ranging from insulin to semaglutide and tirzepatide today. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can optimize your health in safe ways, please reach out to our practice, Northeast Medical Practice. I'm Dr. William Berger, and we are in Long Island, New York. The town is Great Neck, 516-604-3418. Or online at northeastmedicalpractice.com, through our various social media channels, our Northeast Medical Practice YouTube channel, and my LongevityMD podcast on Spotify. But until we see each other next time, be in good health and be careful.